How's it going, everybody? It's your boy back at it again with another Yu-Gi-Oh video. Today, since Konami has decided not to release the ban list anytime soon, I would like to go over my ban list predictions. I've been kind of sitting on these for a little while, just kind of trying to mull it over and everything, and I think I came up with some spicy stuff. Now, I don't think they're actually going to make all these changes. I don't think that's totally possible, but I would like to see some of these changes made sometime in the future at least. And I'll talk about the ones that I think will actually be hit or unhit on the ban list whenever it does come out. But for the most part, it's going to be a bunch of stuff that are just on my wish list and such. So we'll get into it here. Going back to 3, these are all cards that I would like to go back to 3. Destiny Hero Malicious, very good card, obviously. It just kind of feels like Konami's trying to phase out the semi-limited list a little bit, because there's only like 3 or 4 cards on it left. And Malicious is one of those cards that's like really, really strong at 2, and it could be really, really broken at 3, but I don't think that Heroes itself have the real support for it at 3, and I don't really see it like a Dark Synchro deck or anything doing anything like that. So, doing anything special. The jars are just like whatever. I mean, obviously, cards like Morphing Jar are pretty scary if you put them at 3, because they could do some really gross stuff. But I don't think it's fast enough, or like, I mean, imagine you flipping the Morphing Jar, trying to play like an empty jar deck, and your opponent like just like draws into like, I don't know, Ghost Ogre in this format, just destroys it. It just doesn't seem very plausible right there. Time Seal, been on the ban list for a while. Put it back to 1. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. Could probably go to 3 overnight, no problem. And then Recital Starling. This card just doesn't. I mean, why was this card put to 2 again? You know. So that's the stuff that I would like to be put to 3. The semi limits. Got a bunch of stuff here for semi limits. So I want all the tier elements pretty much to be semi limited. I think the deck was hit pretty hard, and I do agree that the deck is very powerful. But I think the deck is practically unplayable without these at least at 2. It's so inconsistent, it's insane. So I'd like to have these back at 2 if possible. Infernity Archfiend also can come back to 2, probably no problem. Infernities as a deck just loses to Nibiru, loses to single hand traps. Droll and Lockbird is insanely good against Infernity Archfiend, so I'm not seeing Infernities being a good deck, even with Archfiend at 2. And I think I do have some other Infernity cards limited here too, or semi-limited. Yeah, Launcher could also come back and be fine, I think, because this deck just isn't doing anything. Even you could probably put these at 3 and they wouldn't do anything, but just to be safe, put them at 2. That's the Konami move right there. Okay, so Miscellaneousaurus. Dinosaurs are getting support on the horizon, so it only makes sense to put this back to something bigger than 1. Salamangreat Gazelle, same thing here. Card is probably fine at 2 or 3. Tsuchinoko, really, really like Dangers. This card is a lot of fun. I don't think Jackalope needs to come back to 3 or 2 or anything like that. Jeez. But the Tsuchinoko itself can come back, I think. I'd rather have this one back, honestly, anyway, because it doesn't have as high of a ceiling as like Jackalope, where Jackalope can summon anything, any of your dangers, which lets you like manipulate levels and stuff. Bro, why is Terror Top at 1? Why is Terror Top at 1? I love this card to death. And yeah, it is pretty good, but like all the stuff that was good about this card has been like hit Invoker, hit all the Zodiacs, hit, you know. I mean, it is very powerful, don't get me wrong. I don't think it would see very much play at 2. Much more play at least than it's seen in the past like 5 years, you know. I think it at 2 is just as roughly just as inconsistent. Notably, this is a machine, so you can equip it with Regulus, so that's kind of neat. Red Rose Dragon. I mean, were they playing more than one of these? I can't even remember if they were playing more than one Red Rose Dragon at a time. Even if they weren't, or even if they were, I don't think this card is deserving of a limited spot anymore. Oh, I have Morphing Jar on here too. I don't know why that's there. Uh, Steam the Cloak. Steam the Cloak. This is just one of those tuners that was hit on the ban list because of Halka Fibrax. Now Halka Fibrax is gone, so this card should probably be fine. Semi-limit it just in case, and then afterwards take it off if it's fine. If not, just put it back at 1 and it'll be fine. This does not do anything right now, I'll tell you that. Spiral Quick Fix, huh? Spiral Quick Fix. Spirals aren't doing anything, obviously. I'd like to see them do some stuff again. It's been a while. But this one's one of the scarier ones, I think, to unband. Or to unlimit, I mean. Put semi-limit, I should say. Obviously, Master Plan is a card that we will actually go over because I'm pretty sure I would like to put Master Plan to 1. But this card to 2 doesn't seem like a terrible idea. I mean, you can't machine dupe this card and get like 3 copies of it out anymore. But, you know, Substitute doesn't do anything. Probably still won't do anything if it's at 2. Who knows? It's pretty much, I think Substitute is pretty much a fine card unless, I don't want to say unless Ronin Toden gets unbanned, because there's probably some stupid combo down the line where you just fill your deck with a bunch of frogs and then just, you know, turbo them into the graveyard and then have some sort of cool other payoff besides Ronin Toden Mass Driver, but who knows. 1 for 1 probably could come back to 2. I'm sure Pearlies would really enjoy this card at 2. It was kind of weird that we had a reprint of this card and they didn't move it at all. This card's just been at 1 since, like, I don't know, like Synchro era, which is insane. Sekka's Light. I don't want to give Super Heavy Samurais more support, but Sekka's Light is a really good card, and I do really like this card. I think it does force you to build your decks in an interesting way. But I don't know. It's a little sketchy, but I would like to see it come back to 2 just so you could kind of, like, you know, mess around with it and everything. Monster Gate and Reasoning. Why are these cards still limited? They're actually only good in, like, Infernoids. I'm trying to actually think about any other decks besides Infernoids that these cards are good in, and I cannot think of any at all. So I don't know. These cards should probably be at 3, honestly, but bump them up to 2, see if it's safe, and then if it is, then go ahead and bump them up to 3 again. And if not, then who knows, you know. Put them back to 1, I guess. Card Destruction, another card that's just like, why is this card even on the list anymore? Nobody plays it. It's not that good. It's a -1. I don't know, man. Gold Sark. I can see somewhat of an argument for this card. It's not insane. You can banish some really weird stuff, though. And have, like, a lot of cards these days have the banishing, like, floating effects when they're banished and everything. And I don't know. I guess this is a card that you kind of have to look out for, and it does kind of limit that kind of card design. But, you know, like, if you want to have, like, a downside, if like banishing a card is a downside, then maybe we should just errata Goldsark to say that it needs to banish the card face down instead of face up, and then you could probably put this back to 3. Then again, that would make Kashtira kind of nutty, so who knows. Into the Void, I get why it's at 1. I mean, Upstart's at 1, and this card's pretty much Upstart Goblin, but like slightly better. But you see people still running Upstart, but you don't see people running Into the Void, and there's a reason for that. It's because Into the Void is much, much less consistent than Upstart Goblin. I'd rather give my opponent 1,000 life points to always draw the card than have like a chance to draw the card, you know. So I think this card could probably come back to 2, no problem. Draco Face Off. Pendulums need help because they're certainly not getting it. I don't care how good the new Zark support is. Pendulums are total ass cheeks right now. And if you're not gonna unban, you know, Electromite or something, then at least start or semi-limiting or unbanning some of the other stuff they have. Spellbook of Judgment doesn't do anything at 1. Maybe it'll do something at 2. Who knows? Dragonic Diagram. Another one of those cards that's going to help dinosaurs out sometime in the future. I'd really like to see this card come back because I really love this card. This card's really cool. And I want to see dinosaurs become meta again, pretty much. So, Ancient Fairy Dragon is at 1 with its errata. It's not doing anything, so it's probably fine to come back to 2. And then Striker Dragon. Why is Striker Dragon even limited to 1? Most Dragon Link decks only play 1 of it anyway. Like, I mean, obviously they have to play. They can only play 1, but like, would they play more copies of this card if it was not at 1? Who knows? It is a good card. I'll say that. It's I don't know. I don't think this card deserves to be at 1, but that's just me. Okay. Going on to the cards I would limit. This is going to be very interesting. A lot of people are going to tweak out when they see this top row here, and probably most of this row here as well. In fact, you guys might tweak out at all of this, besides this one and this one. But let me explain. Again, as this is why I had the disclaimer in the front of the video, at the beginning of the video, that I don't think Konami is going to do any, like most of this on the next list, but it's stuff I would like to see. So let's address the elephant in the room here with this top row. I think kaijus and any like tributing stuff in general should be limited to 1, because nowadays we are main decking kaiju monsters. A lot of people are main decking kaijus so that they can get over stuff, and the issue with that is most people are in like Despia, for example, or branded Despia, or whatever the heck they're playing it now. They're playing Radiant because it's dark, because you can allure it away, or whatever other reason they do that for. And then if you're not doing that, you play Gamma Seal because it's the weakest one, right? Or Santa Claus. And I think they should be limited so that there is variety in the kaijus that you have to play, right? If you're going to be main decking kaijus, you should have a variety of them instead of just 1. Like, instead of just the one with the least attack points or the one that, you know, is dark. So, that's my reasoning behind these. And also, I don't know. Kaijus have always... I've never really liked kaijus in the first place. Like, I like the idea of them. I like their play style as if they were in an actual deck, like revolving around them. But they just kind of like... I just don't like building a board and then having it just destroyed because my opponent drew a kaiju. And I think a lot of people probably think the same way, but they probably wouldn't go this hard on the whole like banhammer if they had the chance. But yeah, this would be something that's kind of like a long-lasting impact on the game if it were to happen. I actually don't think they're going to hit any of these cards, honestly, within the near future. But I would really, really like to see some of these cards get hit just so that I can stop seeing them being played in decks, you know? Or at least have people play a variety of them. Okay. So we'll go to the unbanning here first. So Block Dragon, uh, I don't think there's a really a deck that can consistently take advantage of this card. Like you can argue Adamanticators could come back, and I also actually have Meow Meow Moo down here because I want Adamanticators to do well as well. I don't think Block Dragon is enough to push them over the edge into meta status again. Even though it's at 1 and even though it's searchable and not once per turn and all that crap, I still don't think it's actually good enough for today's meta because there's so many things that can just out this card now permanently, you know. Your opponent summons a Fenrir and then attacks and just banishes this guy. Like it's kind of dumb, you know. Blaster, we got this back in Master Duel recently. Personally, I just think that like Master Duel has a different meta, so who knows if this card would be good or not. I mean, we have Dragon Link, and that's the big thing you'd have to worry about when playing this. The only issue with that is that Blaster is fire, and Dragon Link doesn't really like cards that are not light and dark. So, would this see play? I mean, here's the thought process behind it, right? Dragon Link doesn't play Tempest, and Blaster is only like slightly better than Tempest when you fit it into a Dragon Link deck, right? So they probably would not play this card. And with all the fire stuff on the horizon, like Volcanics and the Salamangreats and all that, maybe they'll play this card. Maybe they won't. Who knows? I would just like to see the Dragon Rulers come off the ban list eventually. Magispector Kieran, Plush Fire. These two are both Pendulum support cards that can probably come to 1. These are all cards that should be put to 1, by the way, if it wasn't obvious. But yeah, I think these can come to 1, probably be fine at 1. It's getting a little bit more risky with some of these guys because they are really good cards. I just think that power creep is just kind of, stopped these cards from really doing too much. Like, obviously, Kieran was really gross back in the day, but nowadays, it's probably fine. Harpor, I just want to unban everything in toss format. Probably everything in toss format, honestly, minus Thunder Dragon Colossus. And this is the only other card besides, like, unlimiting some of the striker cards that we could add back. I also just like the Dark Engine in general that this card provides. So, also I have like 4 super rares, so that's probably why I'm biased. Maxi, I'd like to try this card at 1, just to try it out. I don't think like Maxi's a very good card. Don't get me wrong; it's very strong. It definitely changes how people play the game. But it can't be that bad at 1, right? Like, we have Ash Blossom and Called by the Grave and Cross Out and a bunch of monster negates and everything. So, surely it can't be that bad. Gamma's another one. It can't be that bad. Come on. Glow Up Bulb, the OCG unbanned it. We should unban it too, honestly, just because, like, the only reason this card was banned in the first place was because Hulk, and Hulk is gone now, so bring it back. Bring back the bulb. I want to play my bulbs again. Brilliant Fusion. This card, you could probably bring this back. I don't think the Seraphonite thing, like, obviously summoning Seraphonite is really good, but would you play this card if it was limited? Maybe. Wasn't it limited back before it got banned? It might have been. It's been so long. I can't remember, but it is technically searchable by stuff like Darlantonia, Cobra, and the Predaplant engine and all that. So it could be pretty good, but I just kind of want to see it come back and see what happens, you know? Also, obviously, Gem Knights would love this card if it came back. Chicken Game. The OCG actually has us at 3. I didn't know that until relatively recently. And they don't even play it like half the time. So would this card see play over here? Probably. It's just a better upstart goblin in most scenarios. But I don't know. Do decks even have the room for a card like this anymore? It's hard to say. On to the other stuff here. Kashtira Fenrir and Kashtira Unicorn. Uh, and as well as Shangra Era. I think these have to be hit in Kashtira at some point. It is probably going to happen for at least Fenrir and at least Unicorn. Whether Shangri Era gets hit or not, if it gets limited or banned, it doesn't really make a difference to me. Uh, all in all, they have to get hit because it is not okay what some Kashtira boards can do. So, all of the Bestials, all the Bestial monsters. These, I don't think Konami is going to hit these right away. I think at some point in the future these cards are going to get hit though, because I mean they're just so generically good. They're kind of like kaijus, but for light and dark monsters in the graveyard, right? But they're better because you get them. So they're just so flexible with what they can do. I think these were printed mainly to just out the tier element meta in some cases, just like be kind of like a check for tier elements, and it still didn't work. So, uh, their release meta essentially was not a good showing for them. Not as good of a showing for them as they probably will be in the future. Uh, these cards are also pretty much staples in the Dragon Link decks, and while I do like Dragon Link as a deck, I don't like Bestials for the health of the game. I feel like it's just a little bit too much hate for a certain type that is very prevalent in Yu-Gi-Oh. So, I mean, at the very least, like limit Magnemite, right? Like, at least limit Magnemite, because this card's actually insane. Sprite starter. Uh, Sprites aren't really doing much right now, but with assuming the rest of these bans take place, or at least some bans and hits and everything are taking place against other decks, uh, Sprite starter should probably get hit just to like give a little love tap to the Sprite decks. The last four cards on this list are I'll just do this. The last four cards on this list are all Floodgates. There can be only one. Goes in match, skill drain, Rivalry of Warlords. These cards, they don't. I mean, we used to have skill drain at one, right? I think it should have stayed at one, personally. Even though I am a Helmet Cleafort player who loves skill drain to death in that deck, but for the overall health of the meta, I don't really like Floodgates like this. It just doesn't promote a play style that is skill intensive, because like your opponent establishes a board and then they flips one of these Floodgates, and then you might just lose depending on what they are. No ifs, ands, or buts. So it's the same kind of argument that people give for Vanity's Emptiness or Imperial Order or something like that. So I think limiting these would be fine. I don't think they're strong enough to be banned, but uh, maybe someday there's a meta where these cards become insanely good, and it just like makes one deck really really strong, kind of like how like Skill Drain made certain decks really strong. For the extra deck stuff, this is gonna be fun to talk about. So, Kit Kalos. Kit Kalos is banned currently, and I think it should be put to one. Tier elements are not doing anything of value right now in the meta, and I know we just got out of a tier element meta, but I think that banning Kit Kalos was a little bit much, just a little bit too much. Putting it to one, I feel is fine. Maybe if you put this card to one, you don't put the other tier elements to two, like I had on the semi limit. But Master Duel seems to be fine with it, right? Right, guys? Yeah. I would actually also just ban Instant Fusion in this case if you're gonna put this to one. Assuming you put this card to one, I just ban Instant Fusion just to get it out of here. I mean, wasn't that like what Konami wanted to do when they printed Ready Fusion? It was just to kind of like downgrade and replace it. I already talked about that. MX Saber Invoker. I don't think this card's very good either. I'm gonna be real. Obviously, it's a good card. It's a warrior that special summons another warrior, right? So obviously, very good card. It can't summon really like certain strong warriors like Armageddon Knight, for example. It needs to summon an Earth Warrior. It can summon a Zodiac. That is true. There's not very many of those left. They're kind of a dying breed nowadays, unfortunately. But maybe that is still too strong. Either way, I would like to see this card come back, if only so that I can play it in like X Sabers or something. I don't know. Zenmaity should come back to 1. We will talk about this a little bit more when we get to the ban section, but I don't think windups do anything in this meta at all. Putting it to 1 is really a precautionary measure. I don't actually think this card would do anything if it was at 3, which is unfortunate to say, but that's just how I feel on the matter. But I'm tired of these cards just sitting in a binder instead of sitting in an extra deck somewhere. So Auroradon, a lot of people are going to get the PTSD with this one, but Auroradon's main enabler, Halcofibrax, is banned now, so there's no like one card Auroradon combos, you know, that you can really do that really like, you know, break the game. So I think this card is probably fine. The only thing that I can see being a little bit sussy with this card is if you made a deck where you like something like a Beatrice or well, Beatrice is the only one left because they banned Curious, but if they made like a Beatrice and sent like a trap card to the graveyard and then summoned a Auroradon and added the trap back to hand, like a floodgate, like searching a floodgate or something. That's about the only gross thing I can think of. But that's such a specific like build because you'd have to play like level 6 monsters and then machines to summon this guy. So I don't think there's a build like that in existence currently. So I think Auroradon is definitely fine to come back to 1 at least. Plus, Mechaphan and Beasts need it, so that is a thing. Notably, Kashtira can actually summon this card. And I think about this. Kashtira can actually summon this card by making Dracosack and then summoning the 2 tokens and then, you know, doing that. I don't think that's good enough, though. But who knows. Okay, last one on here is Meow Meow Moo. Prank Kids aren't doing anything, and Adamanticators aren't doing anything, and this card helps both. So, who knows? Maybe this could be good. Maybe it's good enough, but I'm not sure. Or maybe it's too good, I should say, but I'm not sure. All right, the ban cards are pretty quick. Wind Up Hunter, if you're going to put Zenmaity back to 1, probably ban this card just as a precautionary measure. Branded Expulsion. Obviously, this card is problematic, and I know the new Albion can kind of do the same thing as this one, so it might not be the best fix, but Branded Expulsion should probably get banned. I'm going to be realistic. Because if you try to ban like the Gimmick Puppet, then they just summon out like they'll probably find something else gross to summon. So there's that. Then finally, Diabolosis. This card just does so much gross things, and it really doesn't need to exist in a meta where where Kashtiras are the dominant deck. So too much zone locking. But that's the whole thing here. I'll go over, or I'll show the other lists real quick. Here's this stuff. This is the limited to 1, the semi-limits, and then the unlims. Let me know what you guys think, if there's anything that I should change on here, or if any of my predictions are horrendously incorrect. And, you know, just comment down below. Like and subscribe or whatever all the other YouTubers tell you to do. And I'll see you guys next time.